want that girl cause she want me, cause the cash on me. Yeah, you know she capping on me. Dreadlock that cap on me back then.
Growing up, I knew I wanted to go to LA and be famous. As soon as I turned 20, I decided to move to LA. Showed up to LA with $400 in a dream. My dream was to meet all of my celebrity crushes. I happened to be tall and pretty good looking, so I got myself a modeling agency. A few weeks after I got to LA, I booked my first job. I got to model for a runway show. From there, I met a stylist who introduced me to a bunch of people. And from that, I was able to start going to a bunch of industry parties. I met tons of celebrities, influencers, and basically socialites. I even met Kim Kardashian at a party 4 years ago. When I would go to these parties, I would tell people that I was a model. But in order to prove that, I had to have a pretty big following on Instagram. So I took all of my savings that I had and I bought myself 100,000 followers on Instagram. With those 100,000 followers, I was able to get verified. And after that, I started DMing as many celebrities as I could, especially my celebrity crushes. And no, I won't say who they are. After a few weeks, I still didn't have the responses that I wanted, aka from my celebrity crushes, but I started getting some responses from other celebrities. Not as famous or good looking, but still people that could definitely help me get to them. Basically, my life consisted of going to castings, go-sees, and going to photo shoots. I also started doing music videos, and this is when it really got interesting. I started meeting tons of rappers and started getting invited to bigger and bigger parties, like really exclusive parties. The kind where you couldn't take your phone in, and the kind where you had to sign an NDA to make sure that you couldn't say anything about what you saw at the party. My Instagram was also growing really quickly. I went from 100,000 followers to 150,000 within a few months. I even became really good friends with some celebrities that worked on TV shows, like the kind of TV shows that you guys see on Netflix. I felt like I was getting closer and closer to my dream, but still, I never met my celebrity crushes at any of those parties. One morning, I wake up to a few DMs on my Instagram, and it was one of my celebrity crushes. I basically sent him a message just saying, "Hey, I'm in town, I'd love to take you out for a drink." And he replied with a yes. Nothing else, just a yes. I quickly replied and asked him if he wanted to go for a drink that night. He agreed to meeting up at a bar on Sunset Boulevard. I want you guys to understand something though. I was looking for a boyfriend, not just a one night, you know. So I wore my cutest outfit, nothing sexy. I basically looked like a Chanel model from the 1950s. As soon as he saw me, he told me that I was beautiful and we got to talking. Everything was going really, really great. After that, you know what happened. But here's the thing. I messaged him on Instagram the next day and he didn't reply. He didn't even ask me for my phone number. I got really sad, but the next day I opened up my DMs to another celebrity crush. Part 2 is up. Part 2 of how I did it with my celebrity crushes. So after I had my date with my biggest celebrity crush ever, he never called me back. But the very next day, I wake up to a DM from another celebrity crush. Now, I didn't think this one would respond because he was in a relationship at the time. No, I'm not going to say who it is. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. He was super nice over DM and asked me if I wanted to go have lunch. I said yes, of course. We decided to have lunch on the weekend. Throughout the week, he would message me and ask me how I was, but 2 days before the meeting, he totally ghosted me. I didn't hear back from him at all. So the day before the date, I texted him. He finally replied and told me that he had been working. We decided to have dinner and he started asking me tons of questions, like if I had a boyfriend, and I told him I was totally single. When I asked him if he had a girlfriend, he stayed quiet. He said he didn't want to answer that question. Of course I knew he had a girlfriend because it was all over the tabloids. Like there were tons of paparazzi pictures of them together. But here's the thing. We had a fancy dinner. Then he asked me if I want to go back to his place. Of course I said yes. And when I get there, I see pictures of him with his girlfriend, the one he didn't want to talk about before. I then go to the bathroom, open the cabinets, and it's full of girl stuff. I quickly realized that he took me to his girlfriend's place to you know what. I mean, maybe they had an open relationship, but at the same time, like, why would he take me to his girlfriend's place? But I kept my goal in mind. We finally, you know what? And then afterward, he asked me if I wanted to sleep over. That's when I told him no because I knew that we were in his girlfriend's place. He starts laughing and tells me that she's out of town and that she'll never find out that he took me there. I asked him how many girls he's taken there before, and once again, he said he didn't want to answer the question. He then hit me up every single day for like a month. I didn't know if I should see him again because of the whole girlfriend thing, but then I got another DM. Part 3 is up. Part 3 about how I did it with my celebrity crushes. Clear, this is not my story time. I was sending me on Instagram. So finally, my third celebrity crush DMs me back. No, I'm not going to say who it was, but he's pretty famous. He actually invited me over to his place for dinner. He ordered some takeout and we watched a movie. We finally got down to it, to you know what, and it was really bad. And the worst part is, afterward, he asked me if it was good. Of course, I lied and said, yes, it was great. The look of relief on his face was apparent. How could it be so insecure being so famous and so attractive? I didn't get it. I actually did go out with him 2 more times, but I kind of got bored of him. Remember the second celebrity I told you about in part 2? He started getting really crazy. He would call me and text me all the time, and when I wouldn't answer, he would send me messages asking where I was. He became super jealous and controlling. I decided to block him, but I'm now considering if I should maybe unblock him, because the other celebrities I DM'd haven't DM'd me back. But I have a whole new list of celebrities I'm gonna be DMing.
If my toxic ex-best friend got me jumped. By the way, we're calling her Alexis. So me and Alexis have been friends since we were babies. Our moms were best friends, and they sent us to the same school, had the same friends and everything. But the thing with Alexis is that she was super jealous and insecure. Whenever I did anything without her, she'd get very controlling. We got to high school, we started to drift apart, and I made new friends. But like after school, she'd always tell me that she didn't like my friends and that I'd be better off finding prettier friends. I would tell her, yeah, they might not be the most prettiest, but I like them. One day when I go to school, all of my friends are ignoring me and are giving me dirty looks. When I go to lunch, one of the most annoying boys walks up to me and tells me there's a rumor going around saying I was talking mad crazy about my friends and that they were planning on jumping me after school. If you want to know what happened after that, let me know down below. This is part 2 of how my toxic ex-best friend got me jumped. So, like I said before, this kid comes up to me telling me there's a rumor going around saying I was talking mad crazy about my friends and that they were planning on jumping me after school. And in my head, I'm like, so that's why nobody's talking to me? So I went to my best friend at the time, which started the whole mess, and I didn't know. I asked her if she heard anything about this going around, about them wanting to jump me after school. She laughs at me and says I should have kept my mouth shut. I get completely irritated because it's like now I don't have her support. After school comes and everybody quickly runs outside. Me, I'm stalling. I'm very slow at my locker. When I come outside, all of my friends are lined up and everyone gathered to see what was about to go down. I'm running out of time. Y'all let me know down below in the comments if y'all want a part 3. This is part 3 from my toxic ex-best friend got me jumped. So like I said, I walk outside and everyone is gathered around. I walk up to one of them saying, all the rumors that they heard aren't true. One of my friends said, you know what you said, and pulled into my hair. And at that moment, I tried to swing back, but I just get jumped on. And they literally jumped me. After the whole thing was over, my best friend Alexis helped me. We went to her house and she cleaned me up and said that those girls were fake and that I should have listened to her earlier about not being friends with them. And I was confused on why she was helping me because she laughed in my face when I asked about it. But I left it alone because at least she was helping me and maybe she was right. Fast forward 2 weeks later, one of my friends who jumped me reached out to me apologizing. I asked her why and who even told you I was talking badly about you. Guys, believe it or not, after I get done speaking with her, I found out that my best friend Alexis lied and told them I was talking badly about them, and the girl even sent fake screenshots of messages between me and her.
Story time about the bestiality children next door. If you don't know what bestiality is, hold on. So I was living in this neighborhood for 5 years. Throughout those 5 years, not one time did my family go and talk to the other neighbors. Why didn't we talk to the other neighbors? Because it's not like we were trying to make friends or anything. We didn't care for them. Well, one day, the neighbors' kids were playing outside while I was playing outside. My mom urged me to go over there and play with the other kids, even though I didn't really want to. So there was a little boy and a little girl. I went over there and I asked if I could pet their dog because they were playing with their dog. They said yes, and the dog started playing with me and started licking my face. Yeah, keep that in mind. Then we started talking about the bus because we ride the same bus. We have the same bus stop. After playing with them for a while, they invited me inside. I asked my mom if I could go. She said yes. So the little boy ran into his room and then the little girl invited me to her room. So to pass time, I asked her what she does for fun. She said she plays with her brother. And then she asked if I liked animals. Obviously, I say yes, and so she asked to show me a trick. That's when she brings the dog into the room and proceeds to pull down her pants, like for part 2. This is part 2 of the bestiality children next door. Like I said, she brings her dog into the room and pulls down her pants. Totally forgot a very crucial piece of information. I was in 5th grade at the time. That's why I did what I did in these next events. So she pulls down her pants and lets the dog go at it. The same dog that licked my face previously. The dog went for it. He knew what to do. The only words that I could form was ew. She had trained this dog to do that. So after I said ew, she immediately got up and put her pants up. And she was surprised that I was grossed out like any normal human being wouldn't be. Then out of nowhere, she starts crying and I started feeling really bad. So I told her that I wouldn't tell anybody. And so she tells me I had to switch to my dog because my hamster wouldn't do it. Then she gets up and opens this drawer and proceeds to pull out a dead hamster. She says he wouldn't lick, he would only bite. She starts crying really hard and says she feels uncomfortable and she would feel better if I let the dog do what it did to her. As much as I didn't want to, I wanted her to feel comfortable, so I did it. This is part 3 of the bestiality children next door. Like I said, I gave in. I didn't know how it was supposed to feel. It felt weird, but it didn't feel good. So I stopped and she started giggling and I just felt so uncomfortable, so I wanted to go home. Then she started acting like she was annoyed and started getting really mad at me. But I was like, whatever, and so she let me leave. Well, it was a Sunday that day and the next day we had to go to school, but she wasn't at the bus stop. And so I get on the bus and I go to school that day and everything is fine. Until like halfway through the school day, my mom comes to pick me up early. She would never come to pick me up early for no reason. I would usually have an appointment and I would know about it before. I would know if I was going to leave school that day and was going to get picked up, but I wasn't notified. So my mom came to pick me up, and while we were on the way home, she said that my dad had stayed home from work that day, and when we got home, we were going to have a talk about what I did with the neighbor's dog. I promise you're going to want to like for part 4. This is part 4 of the bestiality children next door. Baby, that rhymed. Like I said, my mom is driving me home right now and we're gonna have a talk when we get home with my dad about what I did with the neighbor's dog. I tried to explain myself to her in the car, but she wouldn't let me talk. She didn't want me to say anything until we got home. But when we got home, it wasn't just my dad sitting in the living room. The neighbors were there, the mom, dad, and the 2 kids. So I was like, is this a setup? The neighbor's dad is fuming. As soon as I walked into the living room, he stood up and tried to get in my face. Mind you, I was in 5th grade. He did that in front of my parents. My parents told him to back up, obviously, but there was a lot of tension. When he was in my face, he was saying, "How dare you force my daughter to do that with our own dog?" That's when I knew what the fuck was going on. This little fucker. Basically, after I left my neighbor's house the day before, the daughter went up to the parents and told them that I showed her the trick with the dog and forced her to do it. But this is when things take a turn, babes. This is part 5 of the bestiality children next door. Like I said, my neighbor's parents and their kids and my parents and I were all in my living room discussing about this dog situation. So I went ahead and explained myself that she was a fucking liar and that nothing that's coming out of her mouth was true and that she was just lying and lying. And the neighbor's parents weren't too happy about the fact that I was calling their daughter a liar. Then the mom just lost it and started screaming at me and going at me and just saying all these mean, terrible things. It was almost as if she had a personal problem with me. Well, baby. So I started crying really hard once the neighbor's mom started yelling at me. I don't know what that did to the neighbor's daughter, but she folded. She said, I lied. I'll tell you guys the truth. She finally admitted that it was her idea and she's the one who introduced it to me. Then once her parents expressed their disapproval, this fucking child, she says, I thought it was okay because I saw mom doing it when dad wasn't home.
On how on Valentine's Day, I found out my fiance was cheating on me with my best friend and that I was actually the side fiance. Y'all ever heard of a side fiance? Yeah, me either. Okay, so boom. Me and my fiance were high school sweethearts and been together since the 11th grade. We'll call my fiance Snake. We met through my best friend and let's call her Chloe. They were actually best friends before I met either of them. I met Chloe in high school and one day when we were hanging out, she invited Snake. Me and Snake immediately clicked and started dating a couple months after that and been together since. Chloe was super supportive of our relationship, but they still hung out without me. At first, I had a problem with it, but they convinced me to trust them and that they were best friends before me. So I did. So after we started dating, he proposed to me 2 years later. Chloe was happy and supportive and she was going to be my maid of honor. Well, that was a big mistake. Now that we're up to speed, let's get into it. Like for part 2. Part 2 on how I found out on Valentine's Day my fiance cheated on me with my best friend and that I was actually the side fiance. So like I said, now that we're up to speed with the background information, let's fast forward to when now me and Snake are engaged and set to tie the knot on May 2nd. We're in the month of February and we all know Valentine's Day is on February. This may sound weird, but he actually would get Valentine's gifts for me and my best friend. And I thought nothing was wrong with it. I honestly don't know how I didn't see all these signs, but anyways, this particular Valentine's Day, my fiance was going to be out of town, so I made plans with Chloe. But in actuality, Chloe was just setting me up. She told me she rented out a hotel and that we could just Netflix and chill, drink wine, eat food, and just celebrate love. I got all cute and told Chloe that I was on my way. She told me she left the door cracked open and to just come in. I forgot to say my fiance's name is Snake and best friend is Chloe. Anyways, you wouldn't believe what I walked into. My heart broke, like for part 3. Part 3 on how on Valentine's Day I found out my fiance was cheating on me with my best friend and that I was actually the side fiance. Anyone ever heard of a side fiance? Yeah, me either. So anyways, like I said, my best friend Chloe told me to just walk into the hotel room. So I did. And of course I started hearing moaning. I seen rose petals leading up to the bed, and when I looked up, I see my fiance literally pounding my best friend with her legs wide open. My jaws dropped. My fiance jumped. I screamed, and my fiance Snake is just frozen like he just seen a ghost. Y'all wouldn't believe what happened next. Chloe gets up and puts a robe on and says it's time to tell her. I'm in tears, and my fiance just says, I'm sorry, baby. Then Chloe drops the ball and says that they've been sleeping with each other for the past year and that they're getting married. And then she shows me her engagement ring. My heart shattered to a million pieces, like for part 4. Part 4 on how on Valentine's Day I found out my fiance was cheating on me with my best friend and that I was actually the side fiance. Yes, a side fiance. So like I said, my best friend Chloe said that they've been sleeping together for 1 year and that they're going to get married. My fiance Snake said it kind of just happened and that he didn't want to tell me this way. I cried saying, how could the both of you do this to me? The betrayal of 2 people you love doing this to you was just deep. What's so messed up is that when I told her I was on my way, that's when she decided to sleep with him so I could literally walk into it. I left and cried my eyes out. My friendship with Chloe was obviously over, and my engagement to Snake was called off. It was so embarrassing to tell my family. The marriage with Chloe and Snake didn't last long. They actually divorced 2 years later, but they did have a kid together. I received a letter from Snake basically apologizing and said how he feels shitty about the whole thing. Chloe, on the other hand, she was very cold. She actually never reached out to me. It took a while to let love back in, but after therapy and finding the love of my life, I healed and I'm doing great. Happy Valentine's Day.
Ass on me. I don't want that girl cause she want me cause the cash on me. Yeah, you know she capping on me. Dreadlock that cap on me back then.